Jessica, welcome. I'm so excited to have you to the new-ish YouTube channel. For those of y'all watching, if you listen to the Stepmom Diaries podcast, you have heard Jessica as one of our recent guests. And so we thought we would pop over here and have a little chat about her coaching career and all of the amazing things she's done, including putting out a book recently, which is amazing. And I'll link to that in the notes below. But a lot of folks here are either step family coaches or coaches in training or thinking about coaching. How did you get into all this?
Yeah. I used to facilitate support groups for friends and families of sex addicts. And
I did
in
not
this
know that.
yes, in this process, I mean, it was dealing with like stuff that was going on with my ex-husband and all of that. And that was the closest thing I could find as a fit to support me in that process. And in that, I went in, and after the first day, I was like, oh my gosh, I know like what I'm doing here. I have done this work that they're encouraging me to do. It totally makes sense to me. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do is I am going to support women going through hard things. And at that point, I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like. I just tucked it in the back of my head, knowing this is work I would do. And then fast forward to divorce and then co-parenting and remarriage and all that jazz. And I was like, now is the time to share our story.
Uh-huh.
And I knew there was power in sharing my story and wanted to get that out there. And that's just kind of where it all started. We started with a podcast and then built the coaching business off of that.
That's amazing. What was the thing you were most nervous about when you started out as a new coach? Like, I know what mine was. I was very nervous. But you know that you're coming into this as like a second career, second act,
Mhm.
brand new thing you're doing. What was it that like really scared you?
Think my fear then, and part of my fear is now, is that I am not going to touch all of the lives I want to touch or that I was meant to touch. And so I think the fear really came from not doing it and giving up on the work of even if there's one woman daily that I get to impact and uplift and give them a little bit of confidence to do the thing that is best for them, then this work is worth it. I carry the fears of not knowing how to do it. Like that's really where my fears come from of like, how do I do this? Am I doing it wrong? But also I'm like, I'm just going to keep going because what other alternative is there? I keep going or I don't. And that feeds into the wrong fear.
Yeah, you have such a spirit of sharing and giving, and I just think that's so powerful. I mean, when I started, I just remember being so nervous I was gonna, like, do it wrong and end up
Yeah.
hurting someone instead of
Mm,
helping them, you know? And I think that comes with time. You sort of figure out when you're doing sessions, you sort of figure out as you get the training and learn the things, but, yeah, I don't know, I remember being really nervous about my first few sessions, like, "What if I mess up? What if I tell them to do something that ends up hurting their family or you know what I
yeah. And I
mean?
think ultimately that comes down to as a coach of recognizing everybody has their own free will and their own agency. And ultimately, we're not really telling them to do anything. This
Right.
is suggestions. This is helping them get clear on their own. And so there is a challenge of separating ourselves from that of I am not responsible for these people's lives. They are. So that's a real thing to work through as a coach for sure.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is because you end up I mean, I find myself, like, think about my coaching clients all the time, like, think about the stuff they're going through and even, like, my students in the Family Coach Academy, like, every time I get a new student, I say their name out loud and
Yeah.
and and they become part of the people I think about,
Mhm.
and, if you wanna call that prayer or if you wanna just call that, like, putting it out in the universe, and I feel like you do that too with your I feel like you kinda hold so much space for your people, you know?
Yeah, there's this balance as a coach of holding the space and not taking it on as our own
Yeah.
emotional weight, which is really key. And my husband and I have talked about this a lot. He's like, you could not do this work if you were emotionally taking on or feeling responsible for these women's lives. And yes, there's like a sense of there's a responsibility to these women. It's not a responsibility about what they ultimately decide to do. Like
Yeah.
that is not my responsibility. Yes, I'm responsible to show up as a coach and fulfill the obligations I have committed to, but ultimately I'm not responsible for their lives.
Yeah. How did you decide to get into because you've done several different kinds of coaching, like you've coached
Hmm.
step families, and you're now you're kind of helping people make decisions. How did you make that pivot in your
I
coaching
mean,
practice?
To me, it's all one and the same. I was getting women who were coming to me with different situations. So I really started out, my initial niche was helping women who had had a partner come out because my ex husband
Yeah.
is gay. And I didn't have support with that. I didn't know what that looked like. There weren't resources out there for that at the
Uh,
time, and still very little. And so that was my initial niche. And then women were like, hey, I'm experiencing betrayal or these things, or hey, I'm dealing with stuff in my step family. Can you help me? Can you support me? And I'm like, sure. And all of it really came down to is understanding, how do I make decisions for myself in the current situation that I am in
mhm.
that are true to me, that bring me joy and happiness and peace. And I ultimately, like, the thing I'm helping women find is safety. Like, we want to feel safe to make the decisions for us, to feel our own feelings, to take action. And so that's kind of where that stemmed from. I had a coach who was like, I know you're trying to put words to this. And also, as coaches, we're always looking for some tangible outcome we give
Yeah.
them. Like, yeah, you're going to feel better and you're going to feel safe and you're going to have more joy and peace and happiness and all these things. But that's not like tangible. We can't really measure that. And she's like, you help people make decisions. That is measurable. You can see when you made a decision and you can understand the outcome of that. And so it was kind of that process of realizing that I truly do give women confidence to make a decision that is best for them. And not the decision I think is best for them, because I do have my opinions. I am very good at keeping them to myself, but I am also really good at helping people hear what is best for them and
Yeah.
supporting them and giving them the courage and the strength to act on that thing and
I love
trust that they're going to find their path forward.
Yeah. And that is the biggest and best thing you can do for your client is
Mm,
empower them, whatever area you're coaching in is really to empower them
mhm,
to make the decisions in their own life that they are going to
100%.
find joy and be comfortable with and, empowered and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because ultimately, when we're looking for a coach, it's because we feel like we have lost some of our connection to ourself or some of our own intuition or our own power. And ideally, that is what we are helping people come back to. Like, it's been
Yeah.
conditioned out of us to trust ourselves. And so we need to have that strength and confidence to own that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, one last question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
For a brand new coach, for a baby coach, what is something you wish you'd done differently?
What I wish I'd done differently is I tried to scale too quickly. Like, I put money where I didn't need to put money, and it has cost me a
Oh, that's
lot
good
in the
advice.
process. So be clear about where you're investing and realize there's no rush to scale. So that's one thing that for me is very present right now of, okay, I'm still dealing with the ramifications of that.
That is excellent advice.
Yeah. Secondly, eh, I would say trust that you know more than what you know. You have been called to this for a reason. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know you had something to give to somebody else. And that doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. Your life does not need to be perfect. Mine sure as heck is not. You just need to be able to help people feel seen and supported and know what is, like, help them hear what is best for them that is next. And you have that in you because you've been there and you've done it. And now you have the education and these things to keep going. So trust that.
I love that. That is a great note to end on, and, I'm so glad to see you again. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jessica, for doing this.
Thanks for having me.